So technique. So are you jumping off like peer in? Or are you full sprint Baywatch, like diving in? Like tell me what your strategy is. What does it look like?
There's only one way to do it, Mark, and it's pull the Band-Aid and run in.
Hey guys, welcome back for another episode of the Perks in Paving. We're joined by Mark, as always, and we have the Chad Fay on the episode with us today.
Welcome to the
Flew
show,
in
Chad.
from Boston just to come on the Perks in Paving episode. I heard.
I was told this is the #1 podcast
So you
on
had
the
to
channel, so
Yeah.
of course I flew in.
Of course. Thank you so much for joining us.
No, honestly, I'm happy to be here.
So I don't know if you knew this, Mark, but my first sales rep that I worked with was Chad.
Oh, nice.
Back in the day.
Back in the day,
Yeah.
like a year ago.
Yeah.
You
Doesn't it?
you were his PC.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Doesn't that seem like forever ago?
it does seem like it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at that point, you had been with the company for like a 5 months, handful of months or so?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Roughly. Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I started out doing most of the PC work on my own, and then you kind of were assigned to me.
Yeah.
And then we went from there.
Yeah.
We did great things together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jenna on the scheduling side, and I was on the front end.
It was a blast. You guys had the, your seats were next to each other, so I could always talk to both of you at the same time.
Yes, that was your favorite.
Yeah.
You would get so mad, especially when we moved over to this office, because Jenna and I shared a cube, and obviously, like, there was nothing to separate the noise between us. And I never thought I was loud until I shared a cube with someone, but Jenna claims I was loud.
Yeah. Well, it's coming from Jenna too.
Yeah, yeah. But
Not exactly quiet.
right. But
So you didn't always work for the pavement group, and you had a whole different career prior to ever coming here in the beverage industry. So tell us a little bit about what that looked like. And
I did. So I actually started in asphalt. It's about 10 years ago now. So I started with a local paving company, but prior to that, I was the director of sales for a brewery out of Portland, Maine. Before that, I ran sales for another brewery and all their sales in New Hampshire.
So you weren't always in Boston?
No, I actually lived in New Hampshire for a bit as well. So yeah, but yeah, no, I was in the beer business for about 15 years prior to getting into paving. So it was a little bit of a transition.
Now, did you go to college?
I did.
And where did you go?
I went to Northeastern.
Okay.
In Boston.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice. And then what did you go to school for?
I have a marketing degree.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did your marketing degree get you into the beverage industry?
It didn't.
Oh, okay.
Not even.
Fair enough.
No, actually, so Northeastern is a co-op school. So I can't say that it didn't, because it kind of did have a little bit of a hand. So co-op being that you went to school 6 months, and then you worked 6 months at a full-time job, not just like a part-time job. And at that time, most of my co-ops I did at HP Hood, which is a very large dairy manufacturer in New England. So I worked on their marketing side. And so, yeah, I mean, I guess at some point, that had a little bit to do with me getting into beverages. But I actually did grow up, when I was a kid, my dad owned his own delivery company. When he left his delivery company, he actually went and worked for an Anheuser-Busch distributor for many years. So maybe it was kind of ingrained in me that that might be a path, and I don't know. My brother at one point worked for that same distributor. Okay. So, it kind of just happened. I didn't start necessarily in beer. I kind of started on the non-alcoholic side of things with Arizona iced tea. Okay. I worked for Monster Energy drinks. Okay. And then I went to a beer distributor following that, and then worked just running like a normal everyday sales route. Going up and down the street, getting orders for my beers and stuff. And then I was approached by an actual brewery to come on their sales team. And it kind of snowballed from there. And then I ended up being a director of sales of a brewery out of Portland. So.
And you enjoyed that, or?
I did.
What was the turning point? Because obviously you made a switch because you were mid-30s, even though Chad looks like he's mid-30s, if we want to comment on that. I literally thought that Chad was like 37 years old, and surprise.
I will take it as a compliment.
He's not.
No.
But you're 37. So when, but when you made your transition, you were mid-30s, correct?
Yeah.
And so talk us through that and what transpired for you to make that shift.
The beer business itself, so the brewery I was with was relatively small. When I came on board, I was their fourth employee. So they had 2 owners, and then they had a guy that helped them with the brewing process, and they brought me on for sales. So real small. I mean, not doing a lot of volume. Most of the things that they did were in Portland, Maine. I was located in Boston, and they basically needed some help to grow the brand, and which is what I did grow over the years. That brand, it grew pretty well. We had a pretty good presence in the Boston, New Hampshire markets, as well as Portland, Maine. And it kind of, I wouldn't say it ran its course, but, the beer industry is one of those, it's not a 9-to-5 job. It is a weekends, it's nights. It's a lot of things, it's taxing. And not to mention there's, quite frankly, there's a lot of drinking involved as well, where, it's what you do for a living, And it just got to the point where, I felt like all my weekends were taken up during the summer at events, a lot of nights. Because for the most part, when you're working in the beer business, your customers they're not up at 8 a.m.
Right.
So you're talking to people starting at, 10, 11 and go until 7, 8 o'clock at night because that's who you're trying to get in front of.
Right.
And that's when they work.
Right.
And so it just kind of took its toll on me. I wasn't planning on leaving. Todd, who we all know, our head of business development, shout out to Todd, was working at T&K Asphalt, which is where I ended up. And I think he had posted something somewhere. And Todd and I were friends. Todd and I went to high school together.
We need to get into that. I didn't want to go down, or I didn't even think of that, but let's comment on that next. But continue your story.
I know that.
And we had there's a little bit more of a story there as well.
That's the one I want to go down.
So Todd had posted something somewhere just about, hey, we're looking at this local paving company. We're looking for sales reps. Don't necessarily need to have any asphalt or paving background. We're just kind of looking for the right person. So I had Todd's phone number and I called him. And just, and I talked to my wife at the time and just said, I'm going to give this guy a call and just kind of, I don't know, just hear him out.
Yeah.
So we sat down for lunch, which was great. And him and I just, and I adore Todd. And the opportunity to work with him was something I was excited about.
Yeah.
But I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
And Todd just, for the most part, said, I can teach you the technical part. What I can't teach you is the sales side, which you already have.
Right.
And I did, if I recall, and Todd may say that that's not how it happened, but I kind of recall us having a negotiation about money.
Okay.
And I feel like I did slip the paper.
Oh, did you?
With what I wanted for a number.
Okay.
And I think this could be completely wrong, and I just said it out loud.
It's all right.
It just sounds
as
way
long
cooler.
as it's your story. That's all. It's your story today.
Regardless, the number I gave him was a very attainable number in the paving world.
Yeah.
And I basically was like, okay,
I'm doing it.
I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
At the time it was time for me to move on from the beer industry.
Yeah.
When he said yes to my number, which was no offense to the beer industry, but almost double what I was being paid at the time.
Go Chad.
It was pretty much like, all right, it's time to go. But the beer business, the weird thing about the beer business is that in the growth of the microbreweries and all that stuff, it became very, very oversaturated. And I could feel that, like where you weren't getting as much headway. A lot of the big companies were buying out the retail spaces. They were buying out tap lines and things like that at restaurants. And so you can just you start to get that feeling that, and you'll see it today, is that if you go to a brewery, the brewery itself is now the attraction. You're going there, like it's not just a bare bones place anymore. It's actually a place that you can go and bring your kids.
Who cares about the taste of the beer? Right?
Yeah. Like you can bring your dogs and like
we
that's
the cornhole, the Jenga boards.
They make it an attraction.
Yeah.
And that wasn't always the case.
Yeah.
And so as that shift where I was much more focused on the sales side and building the brand and all that, and it started to go towards, hey, you got to build a brewery. I'd like to think that I helped them get enough income for them to build out the brewery to make it an attraction, in which they did. You can go there in Portland, Maine today. Shout out to Rising Tide Brewery in Portland, Maine. Awesome place. And then, but the sales side of things outside of the brewery started to, slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
And so that just kind of, it made it a little bit easier for me
Yeah.
to make the transition.
That's awesome.
So yeah, and then it was, I think I started in like the fall. So I didn't have a big ramp up for asphalt, but I had got my feet wet a little bit, and then had, obviously, in New England, you get a little bit of downtime in the winter. And so I was able to kind of get myself technically more adapt more technically to what was going on with asphalt over that winter, and kind of was able to, start out strong in the spring.
Right. I don't know if you know this, but I was a salesperson for beer once too.
Do tell.
When I was in grad school, one of my high school friends, she had gotten a job like promoting beer for like, it was this company called M2 Third, and they did Miller Lite and I don't know, some local beers, and so I was
just like one of those girls when you walk.
They
in,
were
she's like,
promotional.
Hey
company.
guys,
Yeah.
why
You
aren't
were
you
passing
drinking a
out
Miller
samples at
Lite?
the bar.
I was wearing full clothes though. I just want to make sure that everyone's aware. I wasn't like the typical beer sales girl. So, yeah. A lot different than what you were doing, I suspect.
Well, don't get me wrong. There was a lot of sampling that went on, and that's a lot of brew fests and things like that I spent a lot of time at.
Yeah, but it was fun. I
Yeah.
got paid a little bit more than I would have had I not done it in grad school to make a couple extra bucks. So, but
it's a great industry.
Yeah,
it really
fun.
is. I mean, I loved it. I'm glad I did it. I made some great friends doing it. Customers and people that were also selling beer as well. But yeah, no, it was time. And I'm obviously very happy that I made the move.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So going back to the Todd thing real quick, I don't think Mark knows this, but Todd and Chad produced a movie, right? Am I saying that correctly?
Todd was involved after the movie was made.
Okay, you tell the story.
I was the production manager on an independent film.
Okay.
Ironically filmed at the Sam Adams Brewery in Boston. It was a movie about restaurants. And I'm trying to remember exactly how, once again, Todd will tell the story better, how Todd got involved. But for the most part, he was introduced to the guy who was making the movie. Todd was a stand-up comic. So when we went and presented the movie to I'm trying to remember what they're called, but, just showing the movie, like out and around it at small screens and stuff like that. Todd was like the hype man. He'd get up and do some stand-up and stuff like that before we'd show the movie, and like introduce, everybody that was involved and stuff. And so Todd kind of was involved in on that piece. And then Todd went on to work with the guy that directed and made that movie on several other small film projects over the years. So, yeah.
Very cool.
It was.
You didn't know that, did you?
I had no idea. Yeah.
Just this little side note. Does anyone else feel like they need sunglasses in here today?
Oh, right.
I'm like literally like straining
losing
my
Chad
eyes.
in the background.
Yeah, everything's like getting blurry. This light is, I'm sure it's making our skin look absolutely flawless.
Glowing.
But whoa,
Transition.
My eyes. Is that why you were laughing before?
Well, yeah, I'll explain later.
Okay, that's why I was laughing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we've been posting a lot with Patrick Ford and the polar plunges. So I want to talk a little bit about how that's been going in terms of, are you enjoying it? How often are you guys doing it?
How did they suck you into this?
Yeah. How'd you get involved?
No, I sucked me into it.
Oh.
Pat was doing it already, had committed to it, and then we were on the Talking Lots podcast for the Christmas episode, and I don't know, I kind of just had in my head, I'm like, why don't we all do it and just make it a thing? And I think it'll end up being...
Has Todd done it yet?
Todd has done it.
Oh.
Yeah.
He hasn't posted this,
There
though.
is video.
Oh.
I have seen it.
Not on social media,
It's
though.
not on social media.
Oh, okay.
I think mainly because there's some rather interesting language at the end when it finally gets out. But
I'm sure the media team could chop that up and make it look fancy.
So we, I just put it out to both of them. I said, why don't we do it? And, like as something, kind of fun. And I think it'll end up being something a little bit bigger than what we thought.
Yeah.
We've kind of got some ideas of what we can do about, a charity being involved, is that we'll all give money for every time we go in. to a charity. Maybe it's one of ours, or we all pick one together. And if you miss it, you got to pay half of that fees from the other guys.
So I have multiple questions, follow-up questions. So technique. So are you jumping off like pier in? Or are you full sprint Baywatch, like diving in? Like tell me what your strategy is. What does it look like?
There's only one way to do it, Morgan, is pull the Band-Aid and run in as fast as you can.
And your Achilles is holding up through all this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I got out when I do it Saturday, and my feet were so cold. That was the biggest problem I had. But you know what? They felt great.
Is it once a week, once a month? How often?
For us, it's once a month.
Okay.
For Pat, he's doing it once a week because he has a friend that wants to do it once a week with him. But we're doing once a month throughout the year. July is going to be great.
Is this like a common thing in your area, or is this just something that you guys came up with and you were like, yes, I'm going to do this?
Ironically, you'll see a lot of people that are out.
Really?
You know, there's certain beaches that you'll see people all the time swimming. Some are in full wetsuits. Some are just out there doing it. You know, for us, it's a jump in and jump out. I'm not out there to take any laps or anything.
Yeah.
But it's it's a lot more common than you think. And it's just a rejuvenating experience in general. And a lot of, from what I've been told and what I've seen is a lot of people that are getting up there in age, including myself, it helps with a lot of things, you know, like inflammation and things like that. So, I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed it. My kids were there. It was a blast.
Did they do it?
They did not. They were in full winter outfits.
Okay.
You've seen my post. My kids are.
So you get out. You're freezing cold. You're all wet.
You're not, though. Once you're out, like the air temperature's not that cold anymore. You're like, all right, this is bad. Like I said, literally from my ankles down, that was very cold. But like my upper body and everything, I was like, all right. You know, I wrapped a towel around and went back to the car and got in the heat.
And what was the water temperature? Because on your post, I did see your post, but unfortunately, next time you post,
it was moved over.
It was right under like a button to either start or stop the sound, I believe.
I'm not great at this page.
So I couldn't see what the water temperature was.
42 degrees is what it was. And it was 37 degrees out with a slight drizzle.
Sounds perfect.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Sounds great.
Well, there's only so many days left in the month.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I got to do it. And this is the nicest day because we had snow. And it was much colder on Sunday.
Yeah.
And I was coming here.
Yeah.
So I had to get it done.
Yeah. Love that. So if you had to pick a charity to raise money for with this polar plunging, what would your charity be?
For me, the charity that I typically go to is the Dana-Farber, which is a cancer institute, but I do it the Dana-Farber at Children's Hospital. Unfortunately, there was two ways to look at this. Unfortunately, I lost my mom to cancer a couple years back, about almost 7 years now. So there's that aspect to it. And then the other part being Children's Hospital, actually the one in Boston, saved my life when I was an infant. And so, yeah, I kind of combined the two. And kids with cancer really kind of hit home for me.
Right.
And so we have given every year on my mother's birthday, which is February 24th. I have a recurring amount of money that comes out of my checking account. I don't even look at it. It just goes to that charity.
Awesome.
So that would be mine.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. You should coordinate that. I think that would be great to get others involved in something that you're already so passionate about. So.
Yeah, and I don't think that we had really fully thought it through until we've now all done it.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, well, we can do something with this.
Right.
You know, and I think it'll be cool. Maybe we'll get some others involved.
Maybe we
guys
can just
come to Boston,
start
come
going
jump in
to
with us.
Allegheny.
Hey, I've done a polar plunge before. It was like an organized thing with Bestbuddies, which is an organization. I think they're global. But it's for kids with intellectual and developmental disability. So we did that when I was in college, which it was fun.
It is.
Yeah, actually, I think we did it twice. It was cold.
It's cold.
It was cold.
It's cold. It's just one of those things,
Yeah.
you know, like when
It's
you're
only a
done, it's
moment.
like, all right, cool, I did it.
Yeah.
Like that's felt great.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
Cool. I got to post about it. My kids, you know, I suggest that people look at my posts just to see my 2-year-old was thrilled. My 6-year-old was running behind me with the camera trying to film it. That was not what was posted because that footage was tough. She was very spirited.
Oh.
But my 2-year-old sat there and just clapped and clapped, and I ran up. I gave her a high five, and she was
That's
like, "Good
awesome.
job, Dad."
That's
It was
awesome.
the coolest.
That's
You know?
awesome.
So yeah, getting the kids involved. They were like driving home. My oldest Ellis was going, "You have to do this every day?"
Oh.
I'm like, no, honey, just once a
That's
month."
what she thinks you do when you go to work. You just go.
Yeah.
But what an inspiration for them. I mean, I'm sure
Yeah.
that's something that they'll always remember. So.
And it's a commitment that we all made, and I think that's why kind of bringing in maybe like a charity situation
Yeah.
where we can kind of do something good for somebody, to honor the commitment to each other. That it's kind of fun and it's silly and it's all those things, but I think there's something that we can do with it.
Yeah, for sure.
So kind of wrap us up. What are some things, we're all very similar that we all came here from different career trajectories and we ended up here at the Paving Group, but being in your mid-30s and going through that career change and look at where you are now and what you've done with the company so far, what would you tell someone who was in your spot, that was in your spot 10 years ago, trying to make that change, waking up every day saying, this is not for me anymore? What would you leave them with?
It's one of those things where you got to take a chance at times. And I think we even talked about it in the Talking Lots podcast too, is that you got to bet on yourself. Knowing that if the opportunity's there and, sure, it's scary, because there's a lot of things that go along with the stability of knowing where your next paycheck's coming from and kind of what you're going to do every day, but just take a chance, and have faith in yourself that you can make the leap to another career or, even maybe it's another position in your own company that you don't think you're suited for. You got to have a little bit of faith in yourself that you've got the ability to do it. And then everything else kind of falls into place after that. For me, I just go with what I know.
I am so sorry. I forgot to did not mean
That's like
to.
the first time that's ever happened
I know.
in show
I
history,
didn't mean to interrupt
all right.
you. I am so sorry.
No, it's quite all right.
It was-
yeah, but I would say that's that's the biggest thing. And it's kind of worked out for me, and I'm certainly glad it did. And it's one of those things that I could have always gone back to the beer business.
Yeah.
If I needed to. Right. It didn't present itself that way.
Right.
Yeah.
We say the same thing all the time. I mean, worst case scenario, we could have gone back to doing what we were doing before. So,
right.
Yeah. Best case scenario, I mean,
still keeping practice with some around the office on
Right.
a day-to-day.
Yeah. Did you get to work on Chad this visit yet?
Not this visit.
Oh,
no.
okay.
No, he's
Worked on Vinny for a little bit.
Vinny?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Are you allowed to disclose what
I
his
don't have his permission, so no,
Oh, okay.
we're not going to do that.
HIPAA still, we still follow HIPAA laws here. So, all right.
right.
Want to bring us home?
Yeah.
First of all, lastly, I guess, thank you so much for coming on and flying all this way to spend time with us this afternoon. It was a pleasure having you.
It's such a treat to be here.
Yeah.
Honestly, no, I love both of you guys, and I'm excited that you'd have me on.
For sure.
Yeah. So, who are you going to match up with Eastern Conference Finals this year in the NBA? Who do you think it's going to be with the Celtics? You ready for another Heat rematch, or
I think that's probably where it's headed.
Yeah. We've lost like 7 in a row. So
Yeah,
I mean,
it's obviously with the Celtics victory at the end.
Yeah.
We're missing some championship right now in Boston, so it's, which it's not. It's a very short amount of time, but it's time for it to come back.
Thank you again for joining us.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. And thank you very much to everyone who's watching. Again, you can find us on the One Team Media channel on YouTube. Thank you very much. We'll be back next week. Love you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Refresh my memory. How old are you again?
48.
Oh my God.